Right now, when it comes to dating apps, it's like no one really wants to use them, but we know it's how so many people are meeting these days. So in this episode, we're revisiting the apps and breaking down how to use them in 2025 and beyond so you can go on more dates and spend less time questioning whether or not you should just delete them forever. Welcome back to Dating Intentionally. I'm Talia. I'm sharing no nonsense advice for navigating dating and relationships with confidence and ease, whether you've been dating for a while or you're just starting out. I believe dating can be fun. Yes, even when you're using dating apps. I know people don't usually use dating apps and fun in the same breath, but stick with me because today we're going to revisit the apps. We're breaking down how to use them without losing your mind because they can work. Maybe not for every single person out there dating, but they work for a lot of people. And I hope that with this episode will help them work for you. And when I say work, well, you know what? I'll get into what I mean when I say they quote work. But first, let's just break down what we're going to talk about today. So first, I'm going to kick it off with 4 really quick but important insights about dating apps. And these will help you reframe how you use them, why you're on them, and just kind of getting yourself aligned mentally so that you don't have so many emotions when you are using them where you're like, I'm done with it. I want to delete them forever. Like we want to avoid that emotional roller coaster. Then we're going to get into 15 questions from the listeners, from you listeners that you asked me on Instagram all about dating apps. So we're going to get into the nitty gritty. And at the end, I have a dating dilemma about being on the fence about kids. By the way, you can watch this episode on YouTube. All my episodes are on YouTube. You can also DM me on Instagram at dating.intentionally. I love hearing from you. So if you have any thoughts on this episode or any questions, please reach out to me. I read pretty much all of them and respond to as many as I can. I love hearing from you. And if you don't have Instagram, you can email me at datingintentionallypod@gmail.com. I don't do profile reviews. I don't do the one-on-one dating app help, but I do have a course called Swipe Match Date, which you can get in the show notes. I'll link it below for you. So that is a self-guided course that you can try out at any time. It's pretty evergreen. So all the information in there is going to apply to dating apps today. And I know a lot of people have found it useful. So just letting you know that's there for you if you want to dive a little bit deeper in your dating app journey and kind of just dial in your profile, your prompts, your messaging, everything. Okay, so let's get into these 4 really important insights about dating apps that will change the way you use them and the way you think about them. First, I want to get back to what dating apps are for. What are they for? What do you think they're for? One of the biggest lessons that I hope everyone who's dating right now learns is that dating apps aren't for finding relationships. They're for making connections. And whether or not those connections lead to relationships literally has nothing to do with the app itself and everything to do with the 2 people involved in fostering and developing that connection. Let's say you meet someone at the dog park and it didn't work out. You wouldn't blame the dog park. The dating apps are really just a virtual space to meet people, not even to make a romantic connection, just to make connections with the potential of romance. When you frame them this way in your mind, the stakes get lower, the frustration kind of goes away, and you can start to stick around even when it feels dry, even when things aren't happening for you. And this is so important. Like, this is the number one thing because I think people get really frustrated. You know, it's the app's fault because they are marketing themselves as like, find love, like get on the app to get off the app. You're going to find your person. We'll match you with compatible people. That's not the case. Like, we know that's not the case. I don't buy that Hinge and other apps are actually showing you who's compatible. I would love for you to ignore that idea completely and just see the apps as a space to meet other people virtually. Like, when you walk into a bar, like imagine walking into a bar and be like, and they're like, okay, you're going to find compatible people here. Like, no, they don't know that. They have no clue. So ignore that messaging. Start to see it as just, again, a container, a space where other single people exist. And while not all of them are looking for what you're looking for, a lot of them are. Okay, so that's the first insight. The second one is about your strategy. And this is another really important lesson I want to drill in here, is that you can use dating apps while meeting people in real life. It doesn't have to be one or the other. And I think the black and white thinking around dating apps, like the delete and re-download cycle, is part of why dating feels so hard and bad. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do that dance and play that game. I recently taught a whole workshop on this. You know, the best dating strategy for people who are looking for love and prioritizing dating is doing both online dating and making an effort in person to meet people. That way, when one approach isn't working well, you have the other to fall back on. Or like if you're really busy and you can't go to a lot of in-person activities, you can use the apps more and vice versa. So as you're listening to this episode, I just want you to remember that dating apps are a great option, but they're not your only option. It doesn't have to be either or, and you can do both. I really suggest using both approaches, especially if you're in a season where you want to find a partner and you're prioritizing that. Also, in terms of like getting into the practical of using dating apps, you really shouldn't be on them for more than 10 minutes a day. And that doesn't sound like a lot of time, but my best advice is to use them for like a couple minutes in the morning and a couple minutes in the evening, not checking them at work, not checking them when you're distracted. And when you're using the apps, prioritize messaging with people you're already matched with over swiping. Because again, you want to focus on getting off the app. So if you already have matches and you're already messaging with them and the conversations are going well, which I know is rare, that's what you want to be focusing your time on the apps on, not so much swiping through. Swiping is equivalent to doom scrolling in a way, because you can just swipe forever in some cases. You can just keep going and going and going. That's a trap. So 5 minutes is all you really need. A couple swipes, send out a couple likes, whatever, focus on messaging. That is going to help you feel more balanced in how you're using dating apps. And you're not going to feel as much doom and gloom, like there's no one out there, everyone sucks. I know for me, like when I was using the dating apps, if I was swiping for 5 minutes and the last minute I only swiped left, or I was only kind of saying no to profiles, that was my sign to put the app down. That was it. If I was spending all this time and just being like, no, 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 there's no point anymore. Let's just put it down. You kind of fall out of the right headspace to be looking for a yes anyway. So you have to be the one to pull yourself out, because yes, these apps are designed to keep you sucked into them. So having that awareness and that time limit can be really helpful. The fourth insight I want to share with you is about profiles. This is so important because I think people get dating profiles so wrong. And as you're listening to this, you are not going to fall into this category anymore, but your dating profile isn't a job description to be your partner. This is what I want to tell everyone on the apps right now. If you don't want dating to feel like a job interview, don't treat your profile like a job application. When I say this, I mean when people are dictating their requirements for a partner on their profile. That's not what that space is for. You've seen it. It's like, you need to be in therapy and we can't date if you allow dogs in your bed, or you must be active and be able to keep up with me. That's not what the profile is for. I mean, we'll come back to this, but like I said before, they're for making connections with the potential for romance. Your profile needs to be more of a conversation starter that also includes some information about yourself and it's less of a role description. And look, I'm not saying don't have preferences. Of course, it's fine to have preferences. And I am all about finding someone to meet your needs. But your profile isn't the place to communicate that information. Your profile is a place to put the information about yourself that will attract the person you're trying to attract. So that's going to be the surface level stuff, like your hobbies, interests, opinions, things that make you, like little glimpses and snippets of that will attract people who are aligned with that and inspire them to start a conversation with you, which is key. The whole point of your profile, your pictures and your prompts and your bio is to inspire someone to talk to you. That is the point. It's not, here's a list of requirements I need in a partner. So if you're reading this and you don't fit that, swipe left. Like that's not what it is. It is just trying to get someone who is like-minded to talk to you. When you use your profile as a space to show off your personality and your interests, you're going to naturally attract people who are more compatible, and you're going to repel people who aren't. Like if you have a bunch of photos of you doing mountain biking and rock climbing, you're more likely to attract people who are into that and repel people who want nothing to do with that lifestyle. That's the point. A good profile will always attract and repel people. Which brings me to the other profile mistake, which I see often, and I'm sure you do too, which is being generic. And when I say generic, I mean like you swipe through profiles and you see that everyone likes sushi and tacos and clean sheets, and that first cup of coffee on a Sunday morning and going to the gym. Like, these very like travel. Oh my gosh, so generic, not specific, so forgettable. That is a huge mistake. And I truly believe we see so many blah profiles because one, we're not taught how to write about ourselves this way. And two, people will fill it out once and can't think of anything really good. And then they just leave it and hope for matches to come flooding in. That's not how it actually works. A good profile means that you've put thought into it and you need to make adjustments if nothing is happening. Like if you're not getting any traction with your profile, like you're not getting matches or likes or anything, you need to change your profile. And like if you've had your profile up for a month with no matches, that's a sign you need to make some changes. And it's that simple. It's not like you're undateable and it's not that there's something wrong with you or the dating apps won't work for you. It's more just like maybe you need to change the copy on your prompts. Maybe there's a photo that's turning people off that you didn't know is turning people off. It's not you. Your profile is literally just a conversation starter. It is not a representation of how dateable you are or not. It's not that deep. It's not that deep. Don't make it that deep, right? If you're making it that deep, you're going to feel frustrated every time you use the apps. So to wrap that up, you want to put thought into your profile, be specific about your interests and your hobbies. Don't just say you like to read. Tell us what you like to read. Don't say that you like to travel. Tell us where and how you like to travel. Get into the specifics. That is going to make you stand out and it's going to attract the right person to you. And finally, I just want to say this is so important. I'm highlighting this so much because your profile is one of the few things on the dating apps that you actually have full control over. You choose your photos, you choose what's in your bio and your prompts. So that's why it is such a focus on the apps because you really have full control over that. Okay, finally, the fourth thing I want to get into, and this isn't really an insight, more just something I want to address because it is such a challenge with dating apps today, and that is the flakiness. And if you've been on the apps, you know what I'm talking about. It's gotten worse, and it's such a bummer that it's gotten worse. But basically, what I'm talking about is this game where people will match with you, chat with you, get up to the point of trading numbers or planning a date, and then even after the plan is set, they'll just unmatch you or block you without any explanation. No cancellation, no heads up, no I changed my mind, just gone. And that is obviously super immature, cowardly behavior that I hate to see, but it seems to be so common. And if this has ever happened to you, just know that while the bait and switch is infuriating, they are taking themselves out of your dating pool. They're doing that work for you. They're showing you that they're not on your level or up to your standards. And I don't know why people do this. If you have an idea of why people do this, please drop it in the comments on YouTube or Spotify, DM me. I would love to hear why you think this happens and it's become so common. I think it happens for a few reasons, other than the fact that obviously on dating apps, like we're talking through screens and it like makes that behavior more, I don't want to say it's not acceptable, but it's like, it's through a screen. So you just care less. I don't know, which it sucks. But I think this happens because they are trying to be excited about the date. They're literally going through the motions of planning the date, but then they're not. And they then don't know how to get out of it because you've already planned the date. Or they're too overwhelmed to say anything, so they just block. Like they're too overwhelmed by their schedule or something going on in their life. And the easiest thing to do in that moment is just to unmatch or block. Which again, I'm not saying any of this is acceptable. I'm just like speculating on why people do this. Or maybe they're too scared to reject you because they're scared of the feelings of guilt that they will feel. And it's whatever, it's like easier just to unmatch. Or they just don't know how to stop the momentum of date planning. So they go along with it and bail instead of pumping the brakes sooner. Or they change their mind and they just don't know how to reject you after the date is planned. Or maybe it's because they just don't feel like going out that night and they don't know what to say. Let me know in the comments what you think. Again, it's so annoying. And I hope that if you are on the apps, you don't do this to people. I wish I could share a solution to this, but you don't know who is going to behave this way until you are in that moment when it's actually happening to you. But I do want to remind you of this idea that no one is real until you've met them, meaning you shouldn't be invested or excited about anything like a date with someone on the apps until you've actually done it and it's all played out. I don't want you to expect to be bailed on, but don't build it up in your mind. Stay as neutral as possible until the date happens. So those are my 4 kind of just things I think you should hear if you're using the dating apps in 2025 and beyond. Let's get into these questions. Thank you so much for sending them to me on Instagram. I'm at dating.intentionally. I love connecting with you there. So feel free to send me a DM. I am here for you. I am rooting for you. So yeah, okay, let's get into it. All right. Which dating apps are actually worth paying for? So I paid for Hinge, Bumble, and Tinder at various points in my dating journey. And I think any dating app is worth paying for if you are actively dating, if you have time to date, if you have time to use the apps and actually have conversations, do the swiping, the whole thing. If you're busy and dating is a lower priority for you right now, don't do that. And I don't think you need to pay for the top tier versions of any of these apps. I think just paying for the basic tier is great. I loved paying for Hinge. I paid for Hinge for the whole year that I was on the app because being able to send 10 likes a day or whatever it is right now isn't enough to get enough matches for what you need to turn those into dates. For reference, I had over 400 matches on Hinge and I only met 40 people from Hinge. So you need to have a lot of matches because of all the reasons that you know if you're using dating apps, because people just fall off. They just kind of disappear. So that's why it's a volume game. Anyway, paying for Hinge helps you achieve more volume in like your likes, your messaging. You can see all your incoming likes. Like it's really useful. Personally, didn't do anything with roses or standouts when I was using the apps, but those are obviously features you have. Also, filters. If you have really specific things you're looking for, like you're trying to date within a specific religion, or you only want to date people who don't want kids, paying for the apps will allow you to set those filters. So that's another reason you might want to pay for the apps. So that's just some stuff to think about. Again, signing up for like a month at their lowest tier or whatever their like most basic cheap option is, just to test it out, is worth it if you are prioritizing dating right now. How do you know if your swiping strategy or filters are too narrow or too broad? So how do you know if they're too narrow is that you're not getting a lot of matches. Too broad is you are drowning in matches. So that's kind of how you know. My swiping tip kind of varies based on who you are and who you're dating. If you are a straight woman, I think you probably need to be more generous with your swiping. Like the ratio of how often women get swiped right on to how often men get swiped right on is crazy. Men rarely get swiped right on or they get liked on Hinge or whatever. So keep that in mind. I think we need to be a little bit more generous because remember, a swipe right isn't a marriage proposal. It is just the opportunity to have a conversation. If they match back with you, if they're even online to talk with you, it doesn't mean it's going to go anywhere. So I think be more generous. For men, I mean, the game I know that men have to play, they're kind of forced to play on the apps, is that they swipe right on pretty much everyone with a normal looking profile, or if they look like a real person. And then if that person matches back, then they'll actually evaluate the profile to see if they want to talk to them because they get so few matches. Like that's literally what they have to do to get any matches. I don't have any update to that because I'm like, okay, that is pretty much what you're forced to do on the apps as a guy. And I wish I had like a better strategy. I mean, could you be pickier? Yes. Could you be more intentional? Yes. Will it work? I'm not sure. What do you do when you feel like you've run out of people on the apps? If you're a small town dater or if you have swiped so much you've gotten to the end of your options, my advice is to try another app or increase your radius. I wish I had, again, a better like magical thing that would help you there, but those are really just the 2 options you have. And again, remember what I said up top, dating apps aren't your only option. Make sure that you are also leveraging in-person opportunities to meet people. So that's what I would do. Increase radius, switch to another app, focus on in-person stuff as well. Do incoming likes slow down the longer you're on an app without deleting or refreshing your profile? I think that yes, if you are not active on the dating apps, your profile won't be shown to that many people. So being active on the apps looks like swiping, obviously messaging, and updating your profile. I found that updating my profile frequently helped me kind of stay fresh in other people's feed or algorithm or whatever you want to call it, because I know my profile is being seen by a lot of people because I kept it so updated and fresh. I was changing pictures and prompts a lot, very frequently, especially prompts because they're easier to change. Also, I was on the apps like every single day. So as an active user, I think I was rewarded by being seen by a lot of people. Again, I don't think you need to use the app more than 10 minutes a day. I just think you need to be consistent. And I think that updating your profile will help you. I don't recommend deleting your account completely and then starting a new one. I know it does work for some people, just a lot of work. I would say stick with the profile you have, do some swiping, focus on messaging, update your profile, I would say once every month or 3 weeks or something. And that should do the trick. And when I say update your profile, I don't mean the whole thing. I just mean change a prompt or swap out a picture. You know what I mean? How often should you clear your matches? So I think this person's referring to like, if you have a bunch of matches in one of the apps you're using, do you like delete them, unmatch, kind of zero inbox it? Personally, I never did this. I only unmatched people who were rude, disrespectful, or just clearly not a match. I didn't unmatch the people who where like the conversation just died, because sometimes you want to go back and revive those. So my advice is do it as much as you want, but don't think of your matches the same way you think of your email inbox. It doesn't have to be inbox zero unless it really bothers you to have like kind of dead conversations hanging out. What is your opinion on Hinge standouts? Is it worth engaging with or not? So if you're not on Hinge, basically it has this feature where there's like 5 or several profiles that like Hinge is like, these are like really good profiles that like we're putting behind a paywall essentially. Like you have to pay to like this profile because it's that good or that popular in your area or something. I never ever looked at my standouts. I did not care. It didn't affect my experience at all. You know, some people just have really good profiles. It doesn't mean they're an amazing person. So I would say my advice is like you can ignore standouts and still use Hinge and other apps effectively. If you have a different experience, please let me know in the comments on Spotify or YouTube, or you can DM me. Like if you think standouts are the way to go, let me know. How do you find emotionally available people on the apps? Love this question. So you're not going to know if someone's emotionally available if like based on their profile. It's that simple. You're really just looking for, do I have stuff in common? Can we chat about something for 30 to 45 minutes based on what we have on our profiles and how much they align? That is what you're looking for. You're not looking for emotional availability. You're not looking for husband, wife, partner material. You're not looking at like, is this person going to be a good parent to my future children? You're just like, do we have stuff in common? Could we vibe? Could we hang out? Keep it surface level on the apps. Save the emotional availability discovery for when you're on a date. If you can get to a date, if you can actually plan and execute a date, that's a great sign so far. And then from there, you're going to get to know them in person in real time. That's when you're going to see signs of emotional availability or not on the app. So just forget even looking for that. Look for stuff you have in common instead. How do you keep conversations flowing so they naturally lead to dates, especially with men? Love this question too. So dating app conversations work best when you keep them short, sweet, and surface level. We're not sending each other paragraphs of texts about our past and traumas and whatever. Like we want to save all that stuff for the date, for in-person stuff. You want to keep it to small talk. Can we have a normal, respectful back and forth where we're both asking each other questions and both showing curiosity for like a day or two? That is what you're looking for. So in terms of how they naturally flow to dates, my move was just to say, I want to meet you. Like, I like our conversation. We should meet. So I wouldn't wait for someone to ask you out. I think that's really the wrong move on the dating apps. The second you know you're interested in meeting them in person, say so. And for ladies listening, I know some of you want the man to take initiative. But just remember that saying, I want to meet you still allows them to plan a date if that's what you're looking for. You're just stating your desire at that point. And you can't be subtle about it. Be direct. I want to meet you in person. We should keep this going in person. Like, what are you doing this weekend? You can ask them out, of course, like, let's get a cup of coffee. I used to just say, like, I like you. We should meet. Here's my number. Let's take this off the app and plan a date. Of course, you can plan a date in the app or not. Totally up to you. But that is my advice. Don't try to get things to naturally lead to dates. Just say you want to meet and see what happens. How can you tell if your Bumble opener is helping or hurting your chances of getting replies? So for people who are not using Bumble, basically Bumble has this thing called opening move where if someone wants to message you, you can like preset 3 questions for them to answer. So you kind of like have 3 canned conversation openers that you can write. They also have their own options. And this person's asking how to tell if your Bumble opener is working or not. I mean, obviously, you know if it's working if people are responding to it. And if it's not, you can change it. So I would kind of change these and mix them up until people are responding to them. But I don't think it's make or break because people can choose to start a conversation with you without using the Bumble opener, right? They don't have to go through that question to talk to you, I don't think. So just keep that in mind. That's how you know if it's working though. And I think, again, you can always change these things. What should you do when conversations feel repetitive or draining? So when you're juggling a bunch of conversations on dating apps, it can start to feel really repetitive because you are having these like very surface level conversations. And I think when you have a few going, my suggestion is to go back, look at each of their profiles, review the conversations, and choose the people you want to meet up with, or at least move to a phone call with, or start texting with instead of chatting on the app. And then you have to kind of make some cuts to your team, if that makes sense. Like just decide who do you actually want to keep talking to and who do you want to kind of just let the conversation die with or unmatch or whatever. That's what I would do. You have to be decisive and kind of get ahead of that drained feeling by making decisions. If someone doesn't respond after a few days, unmatch or wait it out. Personally, like, and this happens all the time, I recommend just leaving it. Like, let the conversation just sit there. Sometimes they might come back after a month or whatever and be like, sorry, like, things got busy, but I still want to meet you, like, and actually plan a date with you. You also can do the same thing to them. So I wouldn't unmatch dead conversations. I think the unmatch works great when you have talked enough to know that you're not a match, or if they say something rude or disrespectful, in which case you can also block and report them. You know, that's when the unmatch should be used, in my opinion. So if someone doesn't respond for a few days, just kind of forget about them and keep swiping and keep starting new conversations. That's the game, right? If they're not actively talking to you, somebody else is. Somebody else is moving faster than them and getting to a date with you. That's their loss, right? So I got this question from a guy. He said he's 29 years old and he is really proud of his physique. And he asked me, is it okay for men to post professional shirtless photos or does it come off as cringe? It comes off as cringe. I think if you're posting shirtless photos of yourself, you better be doing an activity like where it makes sense to be shirtless, like surfing comes to mind, swimming, you know, just something where you are not wearing a shirt. Like, I don't want to see guys flexing in the mirror on their profile. It gives off a like, I'm just here for hookups and I'm just here for you to be into my body vibe, you know, and also like there's something to be said for, in a way, under promising and over delivering. Like, if you have good photos and you get dates, like, let someone see your physique in person. That's a great surprise. You know, not that I'm not saying to hide it, but you know what I mean? You don't have to like, don't give it all away on the apps, especially if you're proud of it and you look great. So keep the shirtless pictures off your profile unless it is in context in the photo or activity that you're doing. We don't want to see just you flexing in the mirror, or whatever. And those pictures are for the bros, as they say. What should you do when someone focuses on your looks early into the conversation? So this question was asked by a woman, and this is something that happens to a lot of women on dating apps. So guys listening, just know to not do this. If they start talking about your looks in the messaging stage, that's a sign. Usually they're just looking for a hookup. I don't know why. It's like, don't you have something of substance to say? Like, it just is a red flag, and it's worth at that point unmatching because it usually doesn't go well. I think some compliments like, you seem cute or you look cute, you look beautiful in your photos, that's fine. Like, one comment sprinkled in there, I think is okay. But if they keep bringing it back to your looks, that's a sign they are just DTF, right? Like, that's just what they're looking for. How should you approach messaging someone you know but not well on a dating app? Love this question. And this used to happen to me all the time in Seattle, where I'd see people on the apps that I definitely had recognized from the climbing gym or coffee shops or like friends of friends. I think you should definitely message them. Just be like, hey, fancy seeing you here. You know, just something flirty and light like that. You can acknowledge that you know them. And then also you can maybe add a comment about their profile or something as if you're actually talking to them. I think it's a great way to connect. So go for it. For someone starting fresh on the apps, where should they begin? And is it really as bad as people say? Well, if you're just starting out, my best advice is to treat your first few dates like an experiment. Don't go into dating app interactions and dates being like, I'm going to find my person. Instead, just go into the dates trying to feel it out. Get a feel for the process of connecting online, messaging, getting to the date. See if you can do that. Work out the kinks. It's okay. You might make some mistakes along the way. And of course, practice safe dating in terms of letting people know where you are, always meeting in a public space. If your gut tells you something is off, listen to your gut. So that's my advice for someone who's just starting on the apps. Like the first couple dates, go in being like, I'm just trying to get used to this. I'm just trying to get a feel for this. Don't be like, I'm looking for the love of my life. And is it really as bad as people say? I mean, look, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. It's hard. Dating apps are challenging. But no, I don't think it's as bad as people say. I think people have the wrong expectations about dating apps. I think a lot of people are using them incorrectly, and that really does affect their experience. We need to use apps again. They're just a place to meet people. What happens after is not the app's fault. We have to just see dating apps as a space for people to start talking. And from there, it can go anywhere. So, okay, wow. Thank you for all these questions. I love kind of doing this rapid Q&A style episode. I hope you do too. It's not my usual format, but I hope that this was helpful. We have a new dating dilemma for you. By the way, you can submit your dating dilemma for me to answer on YouTube or on the podcast. In the show notes, it says submit a dating question. It's all anonymous. And thank you to everyone who submitted, because when you share what's going on in your dating life, you help others feel less alone in there. So thank you. How do you approach dating if you don't have a definite answer as to whether you want kids someday? I, 30 male, have thought about it a lot, and I know there are definitely things I love and things I'd regret about having children, and things I love and regret about not having children. I've made peace with this being a trade-off where I don't have an easy answer, but it's hard to square that with dating. Whether or not to have kids, it's a big thing to make sure you're aligned with your potential partners. And I don't want anyone to think I'm being non-committal or that I just haven't thought about it. But in a world where it seems like everyone both has and needs a definite yes or no, I worry that the fact that I'm torn will be a deal breaker for the majority of people. How do I convey this to potential partners without scaring them away? Great question. And this is so relatable. And this was me. I'm going to answer this from a personal place, and then I'll get into some practical stuff. But I flip-flopped on this decision for years. When I was dating, I didn't have this part of my profile filled out because I knew I could truly go either way. And I knew it would depend on the life that I built with the person I ended up with. I happen to end up with a man who I know will be an incredible father and partner, but we didn't officially decide that we wanted kids until after we got married. Like, we were both on the fence throughout our relationship and engagement. We only decided we were a full, wholehearted yes, like in March of this year. So all that to say is you can find people who are on the fence. There are other people out there who are in the same place as you. So when it comes to who to match with, especially if you're using the apps, I would avoid dating people who are firmly yes on children, especially women, right? Who have a biological clock and pressure in the back of their minds. Like, they're not going to want to date someone who's on the fence. That we know. And it's frustrating for women to feel like they're wasting time on someone who's unsure. So I would recommend matching with people who are in the no camp, or maybe someday camp, or I don't know yet camp. There are many of us out there. How do you talk about it? Well, for some people, your stance might actually be a relief, not a red flag. You can go in and say something like, I've thought about it a lot and I can see my life going either way. I know there will be things I love and things I miss out on in both scenarios. Like, you are preemptively worried about what other people will think, but your truth, your reality is that you have done a lot of thinking on this, and it's okay that you don't have a decision yet. You have more time. You have more time to figure this out, and that's okay. Basically, I'm encouraging you to communicate the thought that you've put into this and the factors you've weighed. Bring someone into that. It's a way to connect and actually show some vulnerability and show that you've done a lot of this work already. Your question also made me think, like, does being on the fence scare you? Are you the one who's scared of this? Are you the one who's having trouble with this? Because some people really might not have trouble with this. Another thing I want to encourage is a perspective shift, because being aligned on kids is important, obviously, but that alignment alone doesn't guarantee a relationship will work out. Let's say you're a firm yes, and you meet someone who is also a firm yes. You might get to know them and realize that you don't want to raise a family with that specific person for whatever reason. So, yeah, like immediate alignment helps, but it only gets you so far in the early stages. There are so many other foundational things in early dating that you need to be focusing on, other than just like, are we aligned on this one thing? What helped me a lot, by the way, like if you're trying to get off the fence, which it sounds like you are, there is a Dear Sugar article from like a decade ago that I still think about, and I will link it in the show notes. It talks about how in every big life decision, you're always going to feel the loss of the path you didn't take. And that just really hit hard for me because the truth is, like, no matter what choice you make, kids or no kids, there will be moments, that where you wonder about the life that you didn't choose. So I hope you read this article. It really, really helped me make peace with choosing one thing meant not choosing the other thing, obviously. Finally, again, I just want to encourage you to be open about where you are in this decision right now, where you're like on the fence. Talk about what you've thought about, talk about the work you've done and the reflection you've done, because that will show people that you're not non-committal. You are really just giving this the thought that it deserves. It's a big decision, right? So don't worry, like, you have time, you're 30. I don't want this question to like take away from the joy that you can have with dating. And I want you to trust that with the right person, this decision will unfold naturally. Oh, and one more thing. I also have a Substack article that I wrote about how I came to my decision. So if you are wanting to read more about getting off the fence, I will link that in the show notes for you as well. All right. I hope this helps. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for trusting me. Don't forget, you're doing great. And if you know someone who is navigating dating and could use a confidence boost or a fresh perspective, share this episode with them. And if this podcast has helped you, a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify goes a long way. Once again, this is Dating Intentionally. I'm Talia, and I'll see you next time.